History isn't just about what we did, it's about what we left undone. The promises we broke, the fights we abandoned, and the futures we closed off. December 9th is a quiet date that echoes with America's unfinished business. Moments where the nation took a path that led to greater conflict, division, or lost hope. Welcome. Some dates shout with battle cries. Others, like December 9th, whisper with consequences. Today, we're looking at the roads not taken, the peace not secured, and the principles compromised on this day in American history. We'll examine 4 events from this date, spanning from the Civil War to the Cold War to modern politics. Each represents a different kind of failure: a failure of diplomacy, a failure of restraint, a failure of reckoning, and a failure of accountability. Failure number 1. The Moscow Summit ends, 1987. The unfinished dream of peace. On December 9th, 1987, the historic Moscow Summit between Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev concluded. Just a day after signing the landmark NF Treaty, the mood was one of unprecedented hope. The high point, Reagan's famous line, "Trust but verify," seemed to be becoming a reality. The Cold War thaw was real. The unfinished business here isn't the event itself, but what it promised and what ultimately happened to that promise. The ghost of the future. This moment represented a peak of diplomatic engagement that was later abandoned. The collapse of the Soviet Union led to US triumphalism and a neglect of the arms control architecture. The mistake was failing to nurture this fragile peace into a stable, new world order, leading to the tensions and treaty withdrawals we see today. We left the business of building a lasting peace unfinished. Failure number 2. The Christmas bombing begins, 1972. The failure of restraint. On December 9th, 1972, the Paris peace talks to end the Vietnam War collapsed. In response, President Nixon gave the order for what would become known as the Christmas bombing, or Operation Linebacker 2. The context: negotiations had stalled. Nixon wanted to force North Vietnam back to the table and show South Vietnam US resolve. The mistake: the campaign of relentless B-52 strikes, while militarily devastating, was a profound moral and strategic failure. It killed thousands of civilians, caused worldwide outrage, and only minimally improved the terms of the peace agreement signed a month later. The mistake was the belief that extreme, indiscriminate violence could solve a political and diplomatic failure. It was an abandonment of restraint that stained America's moral standing and failed to achieve its true objective: a sustainable peace. Failure number 3. The Joint Committee on Reconstruction convenes, 1865. The failure of a true reckoning. On December 9th, 1865, the Joint Committee on Reconstruction, a powerful group of radical Republicans, first convened in the Capitol. Their goal was to ensure the Civil War's victory meant true freedom and rights for newly freed Black Americans. The ambitious goal: they fought for the 14th Amendment, citizenship, equal protection, and the 15th Amendment, voting rights. They saw Reconstruction as a chance for a national moral and political rebirth. The unfinished business. Their ultimate failure was not their own. They were thwarted by President Andrew Johnson's obstruction, Northern fatigue, Southern resistance, and the rise of terrorist groups like the KKK. The mistake for America was allowing their vision to be crushed. We abandoned the project of a just biracial democracy in the South. This unfinished business, the failure of Reconstruction, directly created the Jim Crow era, whose legacy of systemic inequality we are still grappling with today. Failure number 4. The House Judiciary Committee impeachment vote, 2023. The failure of consequence. On December 9th, 2023, the Republican-controlled House Judiciary Committee voted along party lines to formally authorize an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. The context: a deeply polarized political environment, with the shadow of the previous president's 2 impeachments looming large, the mistake and the pattern. Regardless of one's politics, this event highlights a modern failure tied to December 9th's theme: the erosion of serious constitutional tools. The mistake is the degradation of impeachment from a rare, grave check on executive power into a normalized partisan weapon. It represents unfinished business in upholding the integrity and solemnity of our own governing processes. When consequences become political theater, the system itself fails to resolve its business. The common thread, connecting the dots. So what links a Cold War thaw, a Vietnam bombing campaign, a post-Civil War committee, and a modern impeachment vote? They are all about processes left incomplete. Diplomacy abandoned. 1987. Choosing victory over sustained peace-building. Violence over strategy. 1972. Using force to mask a diplomatic dead end. Justice deferred. 1865. Sacrificing moral reckoning for political expediency. Consequences cheapened. 2023. Letting partisan combat degrade constitutional safeguards. The lasting impact. The legacy of December 9th is the long shadow of the unresolved. Unfinished business doesn't just disappear. It compounds. It leads to future arms races, deeper societal wounds, and weaker institutions. This day teaches us that the most costly mistakes are often not the actions we take, but the commitments we walk away from and the repairs we leave for another generation. Conclusion. What do you think is the most significant piece of unfinished business in American history that we're still dealing with today? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you find value in these historical deep dives, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.